Hello and welcome to the very final installment of the Kaweco Pen Thoughts series. It's been a lot of fun doing this and I really appreciate having the opportunity. Today we're going to be looking at 5 different nibs that Kaweco offers. These will all be steel nib, however one is gold plated, and one is from their premium line. We have an extra fine, fine, medium, broad, and a fine premium to compare today. So initially I had different blue inks, and I realized that to do a better comparison, I would like to have all the same inks. So I ended up re-inking everything. But initially you can see that the extra fine is really wet, and that was surprising for me. It wasn't until I inked them all up with the same ink, this is Diamine Ancient Copper, that I could perceive a little bit of a difference between the extra fine and the fine, because they're very, very, very similar in line width. However, if you look closely here on the fine, the ink looks more saturated, more pigmented, darker, whereas in the extra fine, it's actually a little bit lighter and less saturated. The medium is definitely a bigger line, and you can see that, I think, pretty clearly, but not so big that I had to really adjust my penmanship. With the broad, however, it's so fat that I have to completely change how I write. I have to write really, really big, otherwise it would just be one big puddle. I think this is going to be a great nib option for people that generally write really big, but also want to play around with inks and highlight inks in the most flashy way as possible. There's a fly buzzing around in the room. Can anyone hear that? So here is the premium fine nib. This is on the Kaweco the Kaweco Steel Sport, and oddly it is a drier nib than the standard fine that I have. You can see that the premium looks different than the standard, at least in the etching, but it looks like the feed is exactly the same. So I really struggled finding the differences between these two nibs. It's really subtle, really subtle. It's actually not that different from the difference between a gold and a steel nib. It's really hard to pinpoint. It's really hard to describe. And unfortunately, I do feel like even if it's the same manufacturer, each nib is a little bit different. So anyways, I'm going to try my best to articulate how I perceive the differences. The premium nib feels as though the tip or the tipping material is rounder. The standard nib feels as though the tip or the tipping material is a little bit more angular. It's certainly not scratchier. They do sound different. The premium nibs right now at the time of making this video are selling for $45. And the standard nibs are selling for, I think, somewhere in the $15 range. So it's a big leap up. Is it worth it? Honestly, I am really struggling to have an answer. I feel like it really is going to come down to the individual. There's a certain appeal to having a nib that is premium rather than standard. I think it's going to have to come down to the individual. I'm sorry I couldn't be more helpful, but this is how you change a Kaweco nib. So all of the metal pens, you can buy separate units of all different sizes to interchange with your metal pen. The plastic ones, unfortunately, are a little trickier because the grip section and the nib unit are actually fused together. So now, at this point, if you are still watching this video, this is when I introduce the giveaway. So this is my thank you to all of you in the community, because it is your support, your watching of my channel that inspired Kaweco to reach out in the first place. So all you have to do to enter this giveaway is comment down below telling us, the community, how fountain pens have had an impact on your life, how they have changed the way you perceive the world or how you approach writing or artwork. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you later.